Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the leading employee benefits and engagement platform.
It doesn't matter if you run a business or manage a team. Leadership qualities are extremely important. Some people seem to be born knowing what to do to inspire and lead people, but that's not normal for most of us. So what are the things that leaders can naturally create to build happy workers who perform at a high level? What are the skills that you must have to become the leader your team craves for? Hello everyone, this is Sushmita from Vantage HR Influencers Podcast, and today we have with us Mr. Manish Khanolkar, who is an HR consultant with Leap2Excel Consulting. He has worked as a trainer and public speaker with core experience of training senior management on leadership skills, supporting employee engagement and coaching for senior management, assisting employee rewards and recognition initiatives, and there's a lot more in the list. Welcome to the show, Manish.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sushmita.
Yeah. So before we start, please tell us more about your journey in the corporate world.
So I started my journey right after I did my MBA. And actually I've done my MBA in marketing, but somehow marketing as a subject interested me a lot. But the kind of profiles which I was getting with in terms of work, especially with respect to sales, didn't excite me. So I started on my own, and I started out with training. And initially, just a college graduate who was just passed out from B school, who would give this person a job in terms of training, because you need to have some sort of experience, at least at that point of time. People thought so. But my college was good enough, and they said, okay, I had already conducted some sessions for the students of the junior batch of my college, and they liked it. So they said, why don't you come and you train our own students? And I approached a couple of business schools, and I started training business schools and students of business schools on how to be good at communication and public speaking. So that is my first brush with training, which started right after I did my MBA.
Okay.
And this was during the time of 2004, when MBA was a real hot career path. And a lot of these coaching centers were mushrooming. CAT at that point of time was really the preferred choice. In fact, at one point of time, people were saying that CAT will have more number of students than even UPSC, which is for the IAS and IPS. But CAT at that point of time, you had 2 lakh, 2.5, 3 lakh students taking CAT. And that's when I actually approached some coaching classes to help students where I would train their students to get into B schools. So one, I was training the MBA grads who were going to go out of B school, and second, I was training students who were going to get into B schools. And that time, you had this round of group discussions and interviews and all. And that's how my journey in actually training began. And I did this for a couple of years, and I realized that students thing is a good starting or a launch pad, but now you've got to get into corporates. And the best way to train employees of corporates and to learn also simultaneously is to join a training company. And at that point of time, we had a couple of training companies only. They were just a handful. You could count them on your fingers. And I joined a global training company called TMI, Time Manager International, which is based out of Delhi. And I was operating out of Delhi for a couple of years. This was the great experience which I had in terms of training. And what the training company used to do is they used to sign up with a number of organizations for conducting training and development workshops. And I did a whole lot of training workshops on time management, customer service, performance management, sales, and some part of it was leadership. So there is my first experience of leadership development.
Okay.
This experience was really vital, and then obviously it just took forward to make my trip Arvind, and currently I'm doing these things on my own. Yeah. So when I was working with TMI, I realized that I had a lot of experience with respect to training employees, but I didn't see things end to end, and so I required to do that. And I wanted to join in one organization to see how training impacts. Right. Because as a consultant, when you go and you conduct training, it's all you go, you do, and then you just come out, and you don't know whether what has happened.
What the results are. Yeah.
What the results are, exactly. And so I joined Make My Trip as a part of their HR team, and here is where I could see, what exactly is happening to participants, and how do you focus on development over a period of time.
Right.
So right from the time, so at Make My Trip, I was actually handling right from the time of induction to all their development programs. And so the employee would get in touch with me on the first day. That is how it was. And here is where we created a wonderful induction program. We created wonderful development programs for all types of people, right? So the front end was customer service, who were selling the travel packages. At the back end, we had all the IT guys and the other management. So for them, it was a manager and leadership development program. And then you had a big IT support staff, so for whom IT training was required. So different kinds of training for different people is what I was exposed to in the same organization.
Right.
And that's where my development as an HR person or a learning and development person actually happened. So that was the second part of journey.
Yeah.
And the third part of journey was actually the last couple of years. So I had a experience of a consulting, I had experience of a service industry, and I wanted to actually understand India and the manufacturing sector. So I joined Arvind Mills in Ahmedabad, and to understand how a manufacturing unit and mostly a conglomerate, how do they operate. And I was heading the learning and development at Arvind for 5 years, helping the group company and the employees of the group company grow. And after that, obviously, I have experienced all this, so I had to select, or I thought of now it's time to look at what's best, really, what I like to do. And that is how I moved and joined Leap2Excel. And Leap2Excel is again a training, it's a consulting company. It's actually something which is into growth. So it's not pure just training, but it helps organizations grow. The target is obviously the SME sector. But the focus is on how an organization can grow. So the organization has got about 5 verticals, which is one of it is human resource and leadership. So I'm part of that vertical where we help organizations in developing their leaders as well as their HR personnel.
Right. Okay. So Manish, going by our topic, how to become the leader your team craves for. So the first thing that I would like to ask you is what according to you is leadership?
So, been thinking a lot about what exactly is a leader and what exactly is leadership, and I've been trying to find answers to various books. But a very simple definition or explanation of leadership is the ability to inspire people to achieve something worthwhile. Okay, so as a leader, this definition encompasses everything. So as a leader, what are you looking at? Or in leadership, what are you looking at? You're looking at an ability to inspire people, and you can inspire people through various ways. You can empathize with them, you can communicate with them, you can listen to them. So there are various ways of inspiring people, but the ability to inspire is the key. And what do you inspire people for? You inspire people for achieving something, achieving some goal which is worthwhile. So worthwhile for whom? It is worthwhile for them. It is worthwhile for the greater good. It can be anything which is worthwhile. And that is where the ethics part of leadership is also taken into consideration. And you also talk of what exactly a true or a real leader is. So there's no question of whether he was not a good leader or bad leader. The question is whether did he practice leadership? Did he inspire people for achieving something worthwhile? If yes, then yes, that is leadership.
Okay.
So according to me, this is the definition of leadership.
Yeah. So although you are mostly into leadership training, still I would like to ask, what do you think? Are leaders born or are they made?
So this is an eternal question or eternal fight. Are they born? Are they made? What happens? The real answer is actually a mixture of both. So there are certain qualities which are inborn, which are defined or which come through genetics. So no matter what we say that it doesn't matter where you are born, whatever, but there are some things which are inborn. It's a small percentage. You can say as small as maybe around smaller than 20 to maybe 30%. So small part of it is actually inborn, but a major part of it, which is almost 70 to 80%, is leadership. These traits can be developed, and that starts right from the time of birth. In fact, even before birth, and till from the time you are born till the first 15 to 20 years are very, very important, instrumental in shaping certain leadership behaviors.
Okay.
After that, what happens is the build up on those behaviors actually happens. That doesn't mean that you can't shape leadership or you can't teach leadership or you can't shape leadership behaviors after 20. You can do that. You can do that right up till the time you die. But a major part of it gets shaped in the primitive years, and hence the environment is very, very important. And leaders, as they say, can be developed by having the right kind of environment, by having the right kind of training, coaching, majorly in the initial years, and obviously later on as well. So it's a mixture of both. So leaders are born, some qualities born, as well as they are made. Majorly they are made.
So when we talk about organizational leadership, so can that leadership be taught through training programs?
So organizational leadership, can they be conducted through training programs? Now here the answer is a yes, and then I would say a no as well. So there are some things which you can teach or you can make people aware of through a training program, and what is it that you can't do. So training programs, how they happen is, many people think, okay, there's a problem, send this person to a training program, and in that 1 or 2 days this person's problem will get solved, he will get corrected, and this person will come back. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, a training program is not like some magical wand which you put on a person and in 2 days the person is transformed and the person comes. In that 2 or 3 days, whatever the person undergoes training or builds awareness about what are the things which he or she is supposed to do, has to come back and practice whatever has been learned, and that practice is where actually the development happens. The development doesn't happen actually in the classroom, it happens outside the classroom. In the classroom, what gets built is awareness. In the classroom, what will get built is the awareness to change, is the awareness to understand, okay, what is it that I need to do if I have to grow, develop, change. And that is what you do in training programs. And you can teach that. You can teach those skills. You can teach, you can talk about, you can build the awareness of listening. You can build the awareness of trust. You can build the awareness of decision making in a classroom. And the best leadership programs, the development programs, are not those 1 day, 2 days development programs. The best leadership programs are the ones which are spread across 3 to 6 months and which follow a particular pattern. So this is a journey. It is not like a one-off
in every step of the employee life cycle, right? It's required.
Yes, in every step of employee life cycle.
Right.
In every step of employee life cycle, you'll be creating this journey. And a structured leadership program is something which starts with a psychometric assessment. It starts with understanding what you are as a person. And then it's saying, okay, you are this, and what you require or what would help you to become a great organizational leader is this. And then you start training or coaching on those leadership traits or behaviors.
Okay. So what are some of the behaviors that you focus on developing in your leadership development programs?
See, any leadership behavior or any leadership development program first starts with mindset. And whatever said and done, it is actually the mindset which is the most important thing for development of a leader. If you don't have the mindset, no matter what kind of training you do, nothing will be achieved.
Yeah.
And I think the best kind of leadership training which happened on mindset is the Bhagavad Gita. 90 minutes only on mindset, and the person who was actually on the battlefield giving up his arms and saying, I don't want to fight, took up the arms and fought the war. And that is where it was all a mindset shift which happened, and because of which this leader was able to perform. So he had all the qualities of a leader. Arjuna had all the qualities of a leader, but at the critical juncture of the battle, he was giving up his arms, saying that I can't fight. And now here is where mindset plays an important role. So first development program of leadership starts with mindset. Do you have the right kind of mindset, and how do you develop that? And it can be developed. It's not like something like it is developed in the first 4 or 5 years, like what psychology says. Okay, though it plays a major role, over a period of time also you can develop. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing for a leader is how do you build trust. Trust is one of the most important qualities or skills of a leader. He has to build trust with his or her followers. If the followers don't have trust in the leader, followers are the people who make a leader. If they don't trust the leader, then nothing can be achieved by leader. It's not that one person does everything. You have to have teams. And then how do you deal with various situations? How do you communicate effectively? The ability to communicate is the most important ability in this century. Earlier also it was there, but today it has become even more critical. So these are some of the areas which we focus on, and then obviously there are many more: influencing, conflict, negotiation, so all these other areas. But these are some of the critical behaviors which we focus on when we are focusing or when we are creating a leadership development program.
Yeah. So in the same line, like as leaders, what qualities do they need to focus on becoming a leader people love to follow?
So if you want to become a leader which people would love to follow, you also need to develop the quality of listening and empathy.
Definitely, right. Yeah.
See, a leader is someone who understands the pains of his followers, his teams, and who helps to solve or erasing that pain. So if you want to really be a leader, you develop this. Obviously, you need a mindset, you need trust, you need the ability to communicate influence, but you also need the ability to listen. Do you have the ability to listen to your people? So in terms of communication, many people think communication is more about speaking. No, communication is not about speaking. Communication is more about listening. Can I listen to the other person? Can I listen to not just what he's saying, but what is actually not being said? And can I understand not just the facts, but the feelings, the pains of the other person? And can I work towards erasing that pain? If we can do that, if organizational leaders can do that, as a manager, if a manager can understand what are the problems which his or her team is facing and can help towards solving those problems, the team would actually perform for the manager, whatever the manager wants. The manager's role is actually just to do that. Understand the problems of the team members and help in solving those problems. And the team will perform for the manager. So this is one of the essential qualities which you have to focus on if you want to become a leader. And if you want to become a leader who people will really crave to follow.
So when people think about leadership, there is a stereotype of an extroverted, outgoing, heroic, and a masculine figure. You have worked so much in developing and training leaders and managers across organizations. So how do you get beyond the said stereotype?
That's the unfortunate part. People feel leadership means that the person has to be very flamboyant and the person should be able to really be extrovert, outgoing. Unfortunately, our films have created that image of a leader. But a leader may not be someone in organizational context and even in otherwise also. A leader need not be someone who's extrovert, outgoing, heroic. Now, then take the case of a couple of leaders. Take the case of Nelson Mandela. He was not a person who was extrovert and who was heroic or anything. A simple man who actually went to the prison and even when he came out of prison, he forgave the people who actually put him in prison. And that is how he was. And he's respected as a leader because one quality which he had is he used to walk the talk. Whatever he was preaching, he had practiced it. And that is one quality of a leader which is very, very important. Are you doing what you are telling other people to do? And unfortunately, in the corporate world, what we see is that doesn't happen. And in many of the companies which I have worked with or which I consult, I see different rules apply to different people. That is not leadership. That is definitely not leadership. If you want your people to follow you, no matter what kind of lectures or inspirational speeches you give, when it comes to action, see, people are observing. When it comes to action, are you doing it? So I'll give you very simple examples. This is something which I encountered in one of the organizations which I was working with, and there was a cost-cutting measure which was adopted because of the economic slowdown. And the MD of a company said there's going to be cost cutting and we all need to take care of costs and ensure that wherever you can save, save the money of the company. And so obviously everyone started working on where they could save. And after a couple of days, what the employees came to know is that the MD of a company traveled to one particular location and back, and the MD traveled in a business class. Now, that is where the challenge is going to be. People are not going to respect such kind of a person, no matter what he does. Because if you are telling people if your employees to cut costs, are you yourself doing it? And so walking the talk, doing what you say, that's very, very important. And for that, you don't require to be an extrovert, outgoing, heroic, masculine figure. All you need to do is you just need to practice what you preach.
Okay. When leaders set their own standard of leadership with the innate skills of a listener, as you have already said, as a great questioner, as a more empathetic personality, these characteristics may not always be accepted as strengths. Instead, it can be seen as a limitation. And this is more common when women take leadership roles. How do you handle it? Like, how can we handle this?
See, unfortunately, what has worked in the past may never work in the future. And this is a mistake which many people make. They believe that if I possess some kind of characteristics and if something has worked, so I'll give you a couple of examples. This is typically what happens with people who are successful in one organization. And they are successful in that organization because their qualities, their skill set matched with the culture, with the environment in the particular organization. Now they switch, they make a switch and they move to other organizations, and we find that they are miserable, they have failed miserably in other organizations. And the reason is because the same characteristics, the same skill set which they possess worked in one organization has not worked with them in other organizations because there the culture was different. So for a leader, it is very important to be agile. You have to be adaptable and agile. You have to understand that you can't say that, okay, this is how I am and this is how I will operate. No, the environment is changing. It changes really, really fast. It changes at a faster pace than we all can imagine. And we have seen that in the past couple of months. Okay, I mean, no one would have imagined that for 4 months, everyone would be at home in a lockdown and nothing would happen. In a lockdown, there are some people who didn't do well. There were some people who did well. Those people who were adaptable, those people who said, okay, if offline is not working, let me look at what can be done online, how I can change my business model, how I can change my revenue model, what is it that I can do? Actually, for them, things work. So the question for women actually is, as women have these abilities, by the way, to adapt. Okay, so there is a misconception that they can't. And all they have to do is they have to look at how can they adapt to the current situation. So it's not about a man versus woman or anything. It's only about a person. Do you have the ability to adapt to the circumstances which are thrown at you? If you can adapt, then you will do well in any kind of situation. But if you are going to be casted in a stereotype and say, no, this is how I am, and if you are going to set your own ways of doing things, especially of personal types or personal characteristics, that I don't do this, and these are my strengths, and I will only operate on this, then it becomes a sort of a challenge.
Right.
So one thing which people have to be aware of is how adaptable they are, how agile they are in the current scenario.
So again, failures are very much a part of organizations, and it is required for growth. But people fear it and always take a step back when there is even a slightest chance of non-fulfillment. So what are the things that you include in your leadership training and development program workshops, concentrating mainly on what if we fail as leaders?
Now that's the unfortunate part, and that actually comes from, I talked about leadership born or made, and I said 70% is where leadership can be developed and it can be taught. The unfortunate part is our education system teaches people it is not okay to fail. Our education system, when people go through it, it is designed in such a way that failure means something bad, and to an extent even society looks at failure as something bad, and which is a real unfortunate part of it. Because failure are a part of life. So success and failure are a part of life, and we should be okay to fail. I mean, I remember Edison saying that I have not failed 10,000 times. I have just found out 10,000 ways which don't work when he was creating the light bulb. And that is how the approach or the attitude should be. We should be okay to fail, and it is okay not to achieve certain things. You may have tried something and things may have not worked. So what? Try it again. And the classic example is that of Elon Musk. Had a fantastical idea. It was called fantastical because it was really unrealistic, saying that a rocket would be launched and would come back. No one had done that, and no private company had gone into something like launching rockets. But he tried. He failed 3 times, and the 4th time he succeeded. So that is what you should be willing to do. Now, if you would have failed the 4th time, he would have been bankrupt, and people would have said, "See what happened to Elon Musk." So that is also what people would have said. So it's not about, when you don't focus on people, when you focus on yourself and what you want to achieve, you will not be, this thing of failure will not worry you. Now coming to what we do in the development program. In the development program, what we do is we make people vulnerable. Are you willing to be vulnerable? And one of the leadership quality is to be vulnerable. Are you willing to put on the table saying that, okay, this is what I understand, this is what I don't understand. These are my strengths, these are not my strengths. These are the areas in which I have failed in the past. Are you willing to be vulnerable? And can you turn on vulnerability as a strength? Because people who are vulnerable are actually much more stronger than people who are not. If there are people who have created walls around themselves, they will find it very difficult to lead vis-a-vis people who are vulnerable. And in our training programs, when we conduct the mindset and we talk about your life and bringing your life to the table, we have seen that the respect for the leader in that organization grows manifold, and that transformation happens in the session, because people are sharing their deepest fears, people are sharing their deepest beliefs, people are lowering the waterline, people are being vulnerable in the session. And when people are vulnerable, the respect for that person actually goes up. So this is what we do in our leadership development program, where we teach people, or we talk to people, or we train people, saying that it's okay to fail, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay if you are not able to do something or get something in life.
Right.
Yeah.
So Manish, you have already said that trust is a very important factor, in the leadership role. So why is trust so essential for leaders, and how do they unconsciously damage it?
See, why would you do something for someone? That's the question. Why would you do it? Because you trust that person. Because you believe that that person is going to help you achieve whatever you want, or whatever is the common objective, whatever you believe. And that is what trust is. And it's very, very important in any kind of relationship, whether it's personal, family, in a business, organization, anywhere. Trust is the key.
Right.
When people are going to fight in an army, in a war, the army is going to fight in a war. They trust their leader, and that's why they're ready to lay their life for the country, because they believe that whatever our leader says is actually going to be for our good and good for betterment of the country. So that is where it's important. It starts right from there. Now, what do you need to build trust? You need to be trustworthy to build trust. And this is a story which I heard sometime ago. It's a very nice and wonderful story. And it's a story about Mahatma Gandhi. And it so happened that there was one lady who took her small kid to Mahatma Gandhi and said that this kid is actually not supposed to eat sugar, because if he eats sugar, there are boils which happen on his body. And we have told him a lot, but he's not ready to give sugar. So we have told him, the doctors have told him, but he never gives sugar. He likes you and he's inspired by you, so can you tell him not to eat sugar? So Mahatma Gandhi says, come after a month. And the lady says, okay. So she goes and she comes after a month. And after a month, Mahatma Gandhi just takes the boy around and talks to him for a few minutes. And he says, okay. And the lady goes and she's amazed. So the boy has given up sugar. So after a couple of days, she comes back and she says, what did you do to my son that now he has given up sugar? And so Mahatma Gandhi said, nothing. I just told him, why are you eating sugar? Don't eat sugar. It's bad for your health and it's causing painful boils on your body. She said, okay, but then why did you take 1 month to tell him that? You could have told him on the first day itself. And Mahatma Gandhi said, I myself, like sugar a lot. And for 1 month, I had to give sugar. I have to give up sugar to actually be able to tell. And this is building trustworthiness. Are you actually doing what you are telling others to do? So he himself was ready. He built up his trustworthiness, and then obviously the boy trusted him, and he saw what difference did it make. If you break, so trust is something like it takes years to build, and it can actually break in a moment.
Right.
And that is what we talk, or we tell in our leadership development program. We help people develop or tell them how to build trust. What are the elements of trust and how to build trust with your team, so that your team will perform for you, for the organization.
Yeah, really nicely explained, Manish. So when we talk about the leadership cycle, It includes 5 stages like awareness, development, maturity, reinvention, and decline. It is a continuous improvement journey, leading oneself, leading others, and leading change until it starts showing some warning signs of leadership decline. What are these warning signs of leadership decline?
Warning signs of leadership decline is actually being in the comfort zone. Once you start accepting things as they are without any development happening, without doing anything new or different, once you start enjoying it and feeling good about it, that's actually the warning sign. That's actually the declining phase.
Okay.
And many people feel, okay, if everything is going right and if things are good, then why should I worry about? And that's what you should be worried about. See, look at the stages. It's awareness, development, maturity, reinvention, and decline. Now, the awareness is actually what would typically happen, if you say in a corporate environment, happens typically in a classroom session. You do a 2 days, 3 days development program, you build awareness. Then the development happens where you go back and you practice, you keep on practicing. Then you reach the stage of maturity, where you have practiced it for long and now you are very much comfortable with it. Now here is where the challenge is. Once you start getting comfortable. So once you start getting comfortable, feeling, okay, I am the master, I feel good about it, there 2 things can happen. Reinvention can either happen or decline happen. Many of the times decline happens if you don't reinvent. If you don't focus on, okay, what's the next level for me? How do I now go and develop myself? And that is where people enter into a comfort zone, where they are pretty much okay with whatever they are doing. And if you want to really get out of this cycle of decline, you need to reinvent and you need to do things which you have not done in the past. You need to look at newer challenges. You need to accept new challenges. And so if in typical organization, if you're looking at is, okay, I have been a great individual contributor. I have performed well. Can I take up a role of a people manager? And that is the reinvention. So I have performed well as an individual. Now I need to look at how not just my performance, but also I can elevate the performance of my team. And so I become a people manager. Now you have handled people well. Can you handle a department? Can you be a manager of managers? So you have managers who have got teams under them. Can you do that? Now you have done that. Can you be a manager of a business? So every time you are feeling comfortable in your comfort zone, can you take up a higher role? Can you look at the state of reinvention? And from reinvention, you will again get into the loop of awareness. You will again get into development, again get into maturity. Again, once you reach that stage of maturity, instead of declining, again you reinvent. So you keep on doing this, and that is what development is. This is
so it seems like there is no retirement for leaders, right?
There is no retirement. Why do you want to retire? I mean, after you may have retired. See, from a position you may retire as a CEO or whatever.
Officially, right.
But then you move on to other areas. Okay, you have done leadership in an organized structure. Can you do leadership development in an unorganized structure? Can you do development in a structure where you don't have formal authority? So I'll give you an example. So I'm part of this group called Toastmaster.
Okay.
And it is a global forum for development of leadership and communication skills. And what Toastmasters, this is a non-profit organization which has been running for almost now 90 years and successfully running, started by a person in United States. And how it runs is, it has got this cluster similar to what typically Lions or a Rotary is. The only difference is Lions or Rotary clubs, the structure is similar. Lions or Rotary clubs, they work for societal development. Toastmasters is for self-development.
Okay.
And how do these clubs run? These Toastmasters clubs, you have clubs which are run by the members. So there is no formal authority, there is no formal head. You elect people within the club, and someone would be running as a club president, someone would be vice president, etc., etc. So they take up those roles. The roles are for 6 months to a year, and you lead. Now, people who are under you, everyone is there for voluntary work. No one is getting paid. People who are under you, why should they listen to you? So can you look at influencing people in such kind of scenario where people don't directly report to you? You have to work mainly through influence. And that is where the change is. So you have retired from a formal authority, now move to a place where you have to work in an informal setup. How you can be a leader in an informal setup.
Right.
How you can be a leader in a community development kind of a setup. Yeah. So once you reach one particular pinnacle, it's not that it's the end. There are the various areas to explore and work upon.
Right. So Manish, do you have any favorite business book or favorite leader?
Yeah, favorite business book. My favorite business book is actually The Inner Game of Work by Timothy Galway. And what is this book about? It's more of a mindset, not just of a leader, but mindset of anyone who wants to perform. And in this book, Timothy Galway nicely explains about performance. He says the end purpose of whatever an organization, individual is to perform. And perform means to actually achieve our goals. And how best can we perform? We can perform best as per whatever is our ability, capability, or potential. And so he gives an equation of performance. He says your performance should ideally be equal to your ability or your potential. But he says that is never the case. You will never be able, or you are never equal to, your performance is never equal to your abilities or potential. There is always some problem. And he says that problem is interference. Something is stopping you from being your best. And he says interference is of two kinds. One is the external interference, is something external is stopping you from being your best, maybe your country, your laws, this, that. But more than that, something internal is stopping you. It can be your mindset, it can be your fears, it can be your belief system. And then he goes on to explain that your job as an individual, or your job when you're leading yourself, is to remove that internal interference, to try to make it zero, so that your performance goes up. And I found this thing very profound. I found, wow, this is like the ultimate. If you have to increase or if you have to grow, look at what is stopping you from growing inside yourself and ensure that that is taken care of. So that's one of my favorite books, or that is the favorite book. And then there are many others, but this is something which I like.
Okay.
In terms of a favorite leader, I look at history, I look at all along, and someone whom I really, really admire and whom I say, okay, this person has really done wonders is Chhatrapati Shivaji, the great warrior.
Okay.
And why do I like? I've been reading stories about him. I've been trying to understand this person as a leader. If you look at it, he was a leader who was made. So he was a leader who was trained to be a leader. He was a leader who was a smart leader. He actually understood warfare during that time when no one else, when India was being ruled by different rulers. And he was one leader who understood his strength, and the strength of his army was not in fighting wars on a battlefield, but in fighting wars on the hills. And they would secretly attack. They would launch. They were very much good at guerrilla warfare, and that is what they practiced. He taught that to his people, and he said that is our strength. Our strength is never fighting on the battlefield. We are never good at it, because they didn't have armies of lakhs and lakhs of people. They had a very small army, and from that small army they built things. So he was a leader who built things on his strength. He was a leader who understood people, and he understood what motivates people, and he got a lot of people under him. So he was a great communicator, a great visionary, someone who saw that, okay, we need to build an empire in India of the Hindu clan. So can we do that? So when Mughals are coming and ruling, and this is a great Hindu leader as well. So that is the vision of a leader, and that's why I really, really admire him.
Okay, yeah. So last but not the least, how can our listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach on LinkedIn, Manish Khanolkar, or they can reach to me through my Gmail. Like, they can write an email. It's manish.khanolkar@gmail.com. So they can reach out to me.
Okay. That was a really insightful conversation with you, Manish. Thanks for your time and inputs, and thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for new episodes.